Hey, what's up, zoners, and welcome to the earliest waiver wire show on the planet. Today, I'm going to be going over all of the players on your waiver wire that you should pick up and how much you should spend on them. This is a huge episode, man. We have a tight end here that literally matched Isaiah Likely's numbers from week one when everybody freaked out about that. We have a second-year, first-round wide receiver, man. He's got 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. We also have a rookie running back, man, who is literally taking over one of the most valuable fantasy football positions roles from last season. So huge episode. I am doing this at the halfway mark of the Sunday afternoon. So please comment down below if I am missing somebody. I will do the same as well after the Sunday night game and the Monday night game. This is a group effort, man. So please help us out. Also, if you do end up liking this show, please give us a thumbs up. It pushes us out, man, to a ton of people. And that is exactly what we need right now. We need exposure, dude. Exposure. So, hey, I've got all my notes typed out. I will share that with you in 7 seconds. You can do it! All right, let's start off with the running backs, man. Bucky Irving, 32.8% owned. I would spend $30 on him. He is literally taken over Rachaad White's role as we speak, dude. Every word I say, he's taking a little bit more. 9 rushes for 70 yards, 3 receptions for 15 yards. This week versus Denver, White had 6 rushes for 17 yards, man. He did have 5 receptions. That is where he's getting all of his points. That is saving his ass, man. And if you are a White owner, you know what we're talking about. He got the carries. He is super inefficient. He did this last year, but he had no competition, man. There was no Fournette. Well, now he's got Bucky Irving, and Bucky Irving looks explosive, all right? White dealing with a groin injury he suffered week 2 versus Detroit, so Bucky might have got a little bit of more work, but he has at least had 7 rushing attempts in each of the first 3 games, so look for that to grow, man. Bucky Irving, I want a piece of him, leading the Bucs in rushing yards heading into week 3 with 84. Before this big outbreak right here, Baker had the second most. So, dude, Rachaad White didn't even have the second most rushing yards on his team with all those attempts. 4th round rookie Bucky Irving is. He is Tampa Bay's top 10 in rushing rate this season, so they do love to run the ball. I say he's a top tier handcuff, but that he's taking the tier off of that. Hosting Philadelphia week 4, Philadelphia is allowing the 16th most fantasy points to running backs this year at 19.2 through the first 2 weeks. They did hold Kamara, dude. I watched that game. Philadelphia as front 7 looked insane. They held Kamara to 87 yards and no touchdowns. Week 3. Next up, Braylon Allen, 28% owned, $30 I'd spend on him. He was on here last week after getting a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. Week 2, 11 rushes for 55 yards. That led the team. That was more than Breece Hall. 3 receptions. He's even involved in the receptions game, man. So for 13 yards, scoring 9 PPR fantasy points week 3 versus New England. That is not crazy. So you can still get him at a reasonable cost if you have to trade for him. But hey, he's available in 3 out of 4 leagues right now. Snap share week 1, 18%. That did go up to 35% week 2, and it is leveling out around there even in week 3 when people are freaking out about him. He has the highest rushing grade in the NFL per PFF, and he's averaging 5.1 yards per carry. His 4.1 yards after contact is in the top 5, and watching him run, that checks out. One of his greatest strengths is yards after contact. And dude, that fool looks way bigger than Breece Hall, and go check out Breece Hall pass protecting. Week 3, he hit the Samoan dude. The Samoan dude came in, tried to block him, and just flew 5 feet fucking backwards. It was crazy. Braylon Allen, pass protection will not hold him back. He is a 4th round rookie and the youngest player in the NFL. He is huge. I'd say he's a top tier handcuff, man, but he's breaking out of those handcuffs. He might be the person to own. No, he's not. But still, he is a top tier handcuff. Hosting Denver week 4, 13th most fantasy points per game to running backs at 22.2. So it is a great matchup. But they did hold the Bucs to 91 total rushing yards week 3. Next up, man. There we go. Kareem Hunt, 21% owned. $15 I would spend on him. I picked him up for free Wednesday morning on my toilet. Signed back to the Chiefs after Pacheco fractured his fibula. So Pacheco out IR 6 to 8 weeks with a broken bone. Even when he comes back, dude, he's not going to be taking a full load. 7 rushing touchdowns and 7 receiving touchdowns in the 11 games. 14 touchdowns, 7 receiving touchdowns in 11 games, dude. In his last season with Kansas City in 2018, and you're like, well, dude, that was a long time ago. Dude, he had 9 rushing touchdowns in 15 games playing for Cleveland last season. So Kareem Hunt could still be great. The running back coach said he still has it. They are at the Chargers? Week 4, the Chargers are giving up the 9th fewest fantasy points per game allowed to running backs at 15.7, so that is not a great matchup. And then Najee Harris, they did hold Najee Harris to 70 yards and no touchdowns, but still, dude, it seems like the run defense for the Chargers is legit. Next up, man, Rico Dowdle, 37.4% owned. I'd spend $10 on him. I need to see how this game plays out, but he got like the first 4 carries and the first target, and then Ezekiel Elliott came out and must have had like a couple drives because he had 2 touches, or I think it was 2 touches? Yeah, by the end of the first quarter. So first quarter, man, Rico Dowdle came out and dominated just for Zeke to come back and give me a little bit of doubt. So check the situation. The money might go up. He did lead Dallas with a 43% snap rate week 2 versus New Orleans. That was a blowout, and he is the pass-catching running back, so that does not surprise me there. He finished as running back 28 there, so even when he's not getting a ton of snap rate, he does have a, flex option potential there. They are at the Giants week 2. They are giving up the 10th most fantasy points to running backs at 23.8 through the first 2 weeks. They did hold Cleveland to 69 total rushing yards, dude. Cleveland, fire everybody. That team is just quit on everybody. They got to start, dude. They got to go trade for Joe Flacco, do what they can. 2 firsts for Joe Flacco. Next up, Tyrone Tracy Jr., the backup running back to Devin Singletary. 6.2% owned. I'd spend $5 on this guy. 5 rushes for 23 yards, 2 receptions for 17 yards. Week 3 versus Cleveland, and all of that came like in the first half, man. I had my eye on this. I was like, dude, Tyrone Tracy's taking over the job right now. In the second half, Singletary dominated in touches. Ended up with 7 touches for Tyrone, 20 touches for Singletary. So Singletary, still the running back to own there. But hey, Tyrone Tracy is coming back from an ankle injury. Let's see, he only had 4 total touches for 9 total yards heading into week 3. Now he had 5, 7 touches, I guess. So that's not bad. 5th round rookie. So there is a little bit of draft capital here with Saquon Barkley gone. They needed to draft somebody. This is who they drafted. He led the class in yards after contact. And if I was drafting as a GM for the Giants and I knew my offensive line, that'd be the first thing I was looking at, man. Yards after contact. So Tyrone Tracy has potential here in this offense. Let's see. They do host Dallas week 4, and Dallas is giving up the most fantasy points per game to running backs right now at 33.4 points per game. So an amazing matchup for the Giants in Singletary and, hey, even Tyrone Tracy next week. Next up, Jaleel McLaughlin, 36.4% owned. I'd spend $5 on him. 5 rushes for 7 yards and a touchdown. So terrible, dude. It's like 1.1 something crazy shit per rush. 1 reception for 7 yards. Dude, I'm looking for this guy to get all the receptions here. He did not get any, but he did get that touchdown, and he had almost the same amount of touches as Javante's. And then Beatty came in, rushed 9 times for 70 yards, but that was a blowout. He had a long of 40-something. So I still believe in it's either Javante or Jaleel McLaughlin. Beatty just kind of came out of nowhere for that garbage time. Jaleel McLaughlin, super inconsistent, 15 touches week 1, and then only 3 touches week 2. Javante did fumble this game, so that is good for Jaleel. And then remember, he is ranked 6th in forced missed tackles per touch in last year. So that was one of the stickiest stats for fantasy football success. So Jaleel has a talent, man. He just needs the opportunity. He is at the Jets week 4. They are giving up the 9th most fantasy points per game you could run on the Jets last year and the beginning of this year. But then they held Stevenson and Gibson, who took 5 total fantasy points week 3 versus New England. They smothered New England, who is the real Jets rush defense. And then here we go, dude. Another person, Ray Davis. He has not played yet this week, but I own him. And I think that he is a top-tier handcuff that should be owned, especially if you are a James Cook owner. Under 10% owned, $1 on him. Buffalo has the 5th highest rushing rate in the NFL at 58%. 58% would be number 1 by 8% any other year. But watching those games, man, they want to run the hell out of the ball. And so that James Cook position right now is super valuable, and Ray Davis looks great. I think that he is a Braylon Allen type that has not broken out like Braylon Allen just yet. Let's see. He was they are at Baltimore week 4. Baltimore giving up the 7th fewest fantasy points per game allowed to running backs at 14.6. So not a great matchup for him next week. Then here we go. The last running back to pick up, Isaac Garindo, 1.7% owned, $1 I'd spend on him. The coach came out and said that Shanahan said he needs to get him more involved this week. Dude, he's going to get his chance. They were up like 14-0 immediately against the Rams. So we'll see how this goes. 1 rushing attempt for 0 yards to Mason's 20 rushing attempts versus Minnesota last week. Christian McCaffrey, 6 to 8 weeks. Who knows what's going on there? 4th round rookie with a 4.3340. So a lot of draft capital and the speed that Shanahan loves. Again, Shanahan said he needs to get him more involved. They are hosting New England week 4. New England right now is giving up the 4th most fantasy points per game allowed to running backs at 28.8. And then they gave up 54 yards and a touchdown to Breece Hall. And you saw what Braylon Allen looked like. So good matchup for Isaac Garindo next week. On to the wide receivers. First up, man, this guy is still not 50% owned. Quentin Johnston. I told you to pick him up last week for what, 15, 20 bucks? I'm bumping that up to $30. Almost 43% owned, so you get him while you can. 2 receptions on 2 targets. And you're like, well, shit, dude, why do I want him? I expected a terrible game for him because he was going to be shadowed by Porter Jr. the entire game with a hobbled Herbert. But he still got a touchdown, a long touchdown. Herbert did re-aggravate that ankle, and he went out. Tyler Heineke in. So that was bad for Quentin Johnston. And hey, the worst cornerback for the Steelers was the slot corner, and Ladd got the most targets. I told you that was going to happen. 21st overall pick in 2023, so he's a second-year wide receiver with a first-round talent, man, on a team with no number 1 wide receiver. 3 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. Palmer's still dealing with his, knee injury? They are hosting Kansas City, dude. But Kansas City are doing pretty well against wide receivers right now, the 10th fewest fantasy points per game at 20.5, so not great, but I would expect him, 50-50 shot, man, to get a touchdown. We're reaching flex territory for Quentin Johnston right now. And then here we go, man. Next up, Allen Lazard, 34% owned. I'd spend $1 on him just because Mike Williams, I think, will eventually fill this role once he gets healthy. If he ever does, that's a huge question mark for Mike Williams. 3 receptions on 3 targets for 48 yards and a touchdown, scoring 13 fantasy points 13 PPR fantasy points. Week 3 versus the Jets, dude. So 3 touchdowns in 3 games. He kind of is that red zone target for him right now. And Garrett Wilson, you hear the other team talking about it. That is all they're trying to stop is Garrett Wilson. So people are double teaming him. And then Mike Wilson working back from a torn ACL. So really, Allen Lazard's almost like the number 1 option on this offense right now. They are hosting Denver week 4. And guess what, man? Broncos allow the fewest fantasy points per game. So it's a horrible matchup, but mainly for Garrett Wilson because Surtain does not allow any points, man, right now. Just see what he did, Mike Evans and DK Metcalf and so on and so on. He's going to be doing that to Garrett Wilson. So Allen Lazard should be a great play next week versus, what's his name? Denver. All right, man, next up. Ooh, we got some crazy-ass wide receivers on this. Demario Douglas, man, I was pushing him before the year started, and then the year started. So not good. 28.5% owned, $1. They said they wanted to get him more involved this last week. 7 receptions on 9 targets. That 9 targets led the team for 69 yards. 1 rush for 9 yards, scoring 13 fantasy points, PPR fantasy points, week 3 versus the Jets. 3 total targets, man, weeks 1 through 2. So getting 9 targets here was huge. 3 of his 9 targets came from May. So if May comes in, it looks like he will be the main targeted wide receiver. And on the second to the last play where May he was getting ready to throw to Demario Douglas on a slant route to the end zone, dude. It was like on the 10-yard line. He could have caught a touchdown maybe, but he took a sack. That would have been another target with maybe a touchdown. And that would have been, dude, people would have been talking about this hardcore. At San Francisco next week, that they are giving up the 5th most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. So that is a pretty good matchup for Demario Douglas. You know they're going to get blown out and have to throw the ball. Demario Douglas, flex play PPR, man. Calvin Austin, Sunday morning. Dude, 0.2% owned. I've got to say, spend $1 on him. I know he's super fast. He's been around for 3 years on the Steelers. He broke out today. 5 targets, 4 receptions, 95 yards. That led the team with a touchdown at home versus the Chargers. All right. So 2 receptions for 15 yards heading into week 3. This came out of nowhere. Fields will continue to start as long as he keeps winning. So Calvin Austin has a chance to break out. He is at Indianapolis, which is a great. Indianapolis is somebody you want to target starting everybody against. They're giving up the 7th most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. And at 33 points per game, and gave up 6 receptions for 112 yards and a touchdown to Adunze, the second wide receiver for Chicago, week 3, dude. So Calvin Austin, maybe pick up and hang on, dude. See what happens. On to the tight ends, dude. And here we go. This guy broke out huge. Cole Kmet. They brought in Gerald Everett, who was with that, with Shane Waldron in Seattle. So I was a little afraid with Cole Kmet. And Gerald Everett has hung around for the first couple of weeks. Well, no more, man. 26.1% owned. I'd spend $10 on him because I am still afraid of this offense. It was against Indianapolis, and Indianapolis can't stop shit. 10 receptions, 11 targets, 97 yards, and a touchdown week 3. That is almost like Isaiah Likely numbers. Everett had 0 receptions on 1 target. So Everett, you are out of here. 5 targets to Everett's 3 week 2, and now you saw what you saw there. They are hosting the Rams week 4, and the Rams are a really good matchup for tight ends. The 3rd most fantasy points to tight ends at 15.6, dude. So Cole Kmet, I would expect him to be a top 8 play for tight ends next week on your waiver wire, dude. And then here we go. You guys knew this was coming. Tyler Conklin, 27.7% owned. $5 I spent on him. Dude, like I said, they don't know who to throw to because people are just going crazy over Garrett Wilson. He had 6 targets and 93 yards. That did lead the team. Scored 14 points, man, in PPR. He averaged 2 targets and 8 yards per game heading into week 3. So this is new. But hey, man, that Jets team looked like a different Jets team. So what are you going to get there? And again, as long as as long as teams are spending so much attention on Wilson, somebody's going to be breaking out. It's going to be Lazard or Mike Williams or Conklin. Dude, Conklin could be maybe the most consistent one here to do that. They are hosting Denver week 4. Denver is an average matchup for tight ends right now. Gave 15th most points and gave up 7 receptions for 47 yards to K-Dot in week 3. That is a good sign here because, like I said, dude, they're locking up people on the outside. You almost have to throw to your tight end against them. All right, man, on to the quarterbacks. And I picked this dude up instead of Baker Mayfield because I'm a Vikings fan, number 1, and I just believe in in Kevin O'Connell way more than Clint Kubiak. I get it, dude. Clint Kubiak's a new hot shit. Kevin O'Connell's been doing this for like 3 years, man. Sam Darnold, 16.2% owned. I'd spend $5, but if I needed a quarterback, man, I might bump that up to like 15. Threw for only 181 yards, dude, but 4 fucking touchdowns. All right, week 4 versus Houston. Take on who wants to go to the Super Bowl, man? Super Bowl comes through here, dude. What, San Francisco's gonna win? Fuck you. Houston's gonna win? Fuck you. Has thrown for more touchdowns this season, 8, than all NFC North quarterbacks combined, man. The Lions are still playing, but still, that is some crazy shit. Yeah, that's even with Jordan Love throwing for 2 the first game. Quarterback 4 finished week 2 versus San Francisco, scoring 22 fantasy points, and I think he scored 22 this week, dude. Nick Mullins scored 19 plus fantasy points, 4 out of the 5 starts for the Vikings last season. This is all Kevin O'Connell, all right, dog? He can create a carriage out of a pumpkin, and right now we're rolling, man. Addison and Hawkinson will return, so that just makes him even better. Super Bowl, bitch. At Green Bay, week 4, 16th most fantasy points per game to quarterback, so an average matchup. And let's see, they did hold Levis to 260 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions week 3. Levis sucks, man. So Sam Darnold, go pick him up. Woo! And then here we go, dude. Let's get some defenses going on right now. Cincinnati, man, they're at Carolina week 4, but then, hey, I needed to pay attention. It looks like Andy Dalton just threw 2 touchdowns. Holy shit. Maybe we need to cross this off the list. And then Miami, dude, they are hosting Tennessee. Tennessee, if you can go get any defense against Tennessee, they are allowing like 17 fantasy points per game to the opposing defense. That is insane. And then go pick up the Dolphins defense, man, because they are ruling the world. All right, everybody, that is the show. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I earned a thumbs up. Hopefully I earned a subscription. All right. Hey, again, if you disagree or have somebody that you want to add to this list, please comment down below. Any start-sit questions, or if you're just pissed off at me and want to let me know, please comment down below. Hey, shout out to our Patreons, man, Carter Mario and Harold Corman. Because of you, we are on our way to making money, and eventually we can spend more time doing this kind of stuff, man. Full-time job, and it is difficult, so please help us out, man. Tell your friends. Hey, this is Tyler, Big Turd Ward, and this is the Fantasy Red Zone. We have our smashes and crashes Tuesday morning, live drinking shows, Friday nights, hang out. That's it.